Once again, my name is Ryan Burke. Good evening and welcome to the call tonight. I'm very excited about what I'm going to be sharing with you this evening, and you should be too. Over the next 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to know everything that you would need to know about Detroit investing to make a decision on whether this is the right opportunity for you or not. Now, for a lot of you on this call this evening, the decision's already been made. You've already decided that Detroit is the best market in the country for cash flow. And I want to let you know that you're very smart for recognizing that, by the way. So the decision's already been made. Now it's time to make a simple choice. Who's going to be the best company to provide you with turnkey properties in Detroit? It's either going to be us or it's going to be someone else. Either way, by the end of this call, you will be confident in moving forward, regardless of who with. And if it's not us, I wish you the best of luck with your investing. So you're going to have the ability and the opportunity to preview and own some of the best turnkey properties that are available here in Detroit. Now, when I say turnkey, I mean that all of our properties are rehabbed, they're all tenanted, and they all have leases and property management in place. Okay? Now, all of our properties are in the best neighborhoods with the lowest taxes and happy tenants that pay. That's always a pretty big bonus, right? So with the information that I'm going to share with you, you're going to be able to build a completely hassle-free portfolio that has absolutely no debt whatsoever. And the reason I say that is because our turnkey properties are priced so low that you will receive a 17% plus return even though you paid cash for the property. And those are amazing numbers, and I've built a system and team in Detroit that allows me to hand deliver this directly to you, again, completely hassle-free. So what's great about this webinar is I'm going to share with you some very good tips and do's and don'ts so that you'll be empowered to get out there, take some action, and start building your hassle-free portfolio. Not only will we be showcasing the best turnkey inventory in Detroit, but we'll also be educating you on what to do and what not to do in case you try to do this on your own. I know there's a lot of investors out there that just kind of want to get out there and do this on their own. They don't really want any assistance from people like us, and that's okay. But that being said, let's go ahead and jump in so I can show you the fastest and best way for you to build up your passive income and achieve financial freedom. So, I'm a lot like you. When I began investing in Detroit, I was looking for answers. I was looking for answers and the right team members to help me build my company. The problem I had was that everyone and their mom in Detroit is a wholesaler or a rehabber or a property manager or something like that, and with so many people out there offering the same service, I didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. On top of that, I was trying to save as much money as possible so that my profits on my deals were larger. I mean, if I can get a dirt house cheap for sale, does it really matter how good the neighborhood is? Yes, it does. You don't want to end up with something like this or with something like this. Okay? Now, I found out quickly by purchasing the wrong houses in the wrong neighborhood that the neighborhood is 100 times more important than the house. Why? Because if I'm going to do a rehab anyways, does it really matter how much work needs to be done to a house as long as the numbers work, the all-in numbers between purchase price and rehab work? No, it doesn't. People are buying and renting the neighborhood, not the house. Detroiters want to be in a safe, well-groomed area with a lot of pride of ownership, like, this or something like this. This gives you an example of some neighborhoods that we currently like to invest in. I also ended up with the wrong property managers as I was first in Detroit that were stealing rent money from me, creating phantom work orders on homes that didn't need work. I then fell into the trap of using the cheapest contractor that bid out the job, only to find out later that it ended up costing me more money because they didn't do the work properly and they would never finish the job by the deadline. So I'd have to go in behind them, complete the work, and I'd lose money because, again, it wasn't done by the deadline. So as my business started to expand, so did the demand from my customers and turnkey inventory. And at one point, I was in the middle of 10 rehabs at once and basically got taken by some contractors for about $80,000. This put my entire business to a complete halt. And at this point, my partners, they decided that they were out of the game and real estate wasn't for them. But for me personally, there was no way I was going to give up at that point. I had way too much skin in the game to walk away, and the opportunity in Detroit was way too good to not continue on. At that point, I vowed to start searching out the best of the best that Detroit has to offer, the best homes in the best neighborhoods. Now, this meant that I was walking away from about 80% of the homes that I was finding, because Detroit is a very big place, and today there's only specific zip codes that I work in, because in my opinion, 80% of Detroit I would not want to own a house in, even if I got it for free, because to me it's not even a house, it's a liability. It's definitely not an asset. So I searched out the best and most integral property managers with the most user-friendly software to track everything online. Above me on that, I found the most successful and best contractors out there to work on my rehabs. In fact, I now have a deal worked out with most of my contractors that they front the money for the job, the whole rehab, and get paid 75% upon completion and the other 25% upon the city coming out, passing their work, and issuing a C of O or certificate of occupancy. The key to them fronting the money is that they are successful with or without my business and aren't living paycheck to paycheck, which you're going to find out a lot of contractors are nowadays. So you want to link up with the contractor that's successful with or without you, that's not living paycheck to paycheck, that's not robbing Peter to pay Paul, because that's going to end up creating challenges for you down the road. Folks, it wasn't easy. It didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took a couple of years and thousands of more dollars spent with the wrong people to get where I am today. The biggest key, though, is that I learned from all my mistakes and failures, created and put systems in place to make sure that I wouldn't be in the same bad situation twice. Now, I'm telling you my story of struggle to impress upon you the education, the money, the failures that I've been through to get my Detroit real estate business where it is today. And my system is now perfected. It's perfect. And, you're the direct beneficiary of that. So, today my company is systems dependent. It's not people dependent. I now have the right people and blueprint in place that allows me to crank out the best of the best that Detroit has to offer. In fact, we've successfully flipped close to 300 homes in the Metro Detroit area in the last 3 years. Here's a couple of our success stories. This is someone that's done business with us. His name is Tom from Irvine, California, and he says, "My family and I have been investing in commercial real estate for over 30 years. While this has been our first residential project, working with Ryan and In the Now has been very mutually beneficial arrangement. He stands by his properties and is honest and hardworking. He delivers quality product with good returns. Because of that, we purchased a total of 75 properties from him." Here's another success story for you. Adrian from Los Angeles, California. "I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know that In the Now Investments offers a great opportunity for your investments needs. I too am a proud investor whom purchased an investment property through my IRA. I love the fact that the monthly rent goes back into my IRA every month tax-free. They made it very hassle-free for me. In fact, I have never seen the house that I own. I'm looking forward to purchasing again sometime soon." Here's another success story of ours. Alan Morris from Fountain Valley, California. He says, "Thanks, Ryan. It's really been a pleasure doing business with you. Purchasing properties in another state, especially in Detroit, is nerve-wracking for sure. You did what you said you'd do, and I appreciate that. I got a good vibe from you the first time I met you. You're going to be very successful in this business, and I'm looking forward to buying another property from you. Have a very Merry Christmas, buddy." So we have several success stories in place with our company, and we're looking for the next success story. That may or may not be you, but let me dive right into our top reasons why we specifically like to invest into Detroit. So the first reason that we really like investing in Detroit is because there's very, very low price points. So, even if you're a very novice investor, I'm sure that you've heard or read about the Detroit economy, right? And there's no wonder that home prices fell as hard as they did there in Detroit. But for some, this is devastating with all of the foreclosures and abandoned homes. For others, like myself and you, this is an incredible opportunity to create massive wealth. Remember, a setback is a setup for a comeback. In fact, more millionaires will be created in the next 5 years from the Detroit real estate market than any other time in the history of our country. With price points in the low to upper 30s, this allows you to build a completely debt-free portfolio, and that means cash flow, pure cash flow. So here's a question for you. Have you ever found it frustrating dealing with banks and getting a loan? I know my wife and I have it, especially in today's lending environment. Even with a 720 FICO score and great income, it still seems close to impossible to get that funding. And, on top of that, now you're only allowed to have 10 mortgages on your credit report, which, if you're a full-time investor, that is not very many homes to have over your lifetime. So with price points being as low as they are in Detroit, your money can really go a long way if you know what you're doing. This is also going to allow you to pay cash for all of your homes. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to go out and buy the $10 burn downs on the street, because remember, you have to be very selective in which neighborhoods you buy in, but it does mean that you can really pick up a nice property, a nicer area of town for less than you would pay for most used vehicles. Now, keep in mind, when you mix low price points with high rents, that's going to equal a great buy and hold environment for cash flow. Remember, you can get rich from flipping, but true wealth comes from buying low, cash flowing double-digit returns, and then selling high, timing the market perfectly. Right now, we're in a buyer's market. When it's a seller's market, that's when you sell. So this means, even if it took another 5 years to get there, does it really matter if you're getting a 17% plus return in the meantime? I mean, in 5 years, your turnkey investment almost pays for itself. And that leads me into reason number 2 that we really, really love Detroit. Some of the lowest price points in the country with some of the highest rents in the country. And like I said, when you mix low price points with high rents, that equals a great cash-on-cash return on a property that's completely debt-free, especially when you keep your other expenses low associated with the property. And out of our investment properties, you can generally expect to earn a 17% plus net cash-on-cash return. So that's not too shabby, especially on an investment under $40,000. Now, having high rents is one thing, but when those high rents are coming from Section 8, that's the perfect storm for an investor, in my opinion, because lowest price points in the country mixed with the highest Section 8 rents in the country. You're starting to see now, right, why we love Detroit so much, because it's a guaranteed return. The government is paying their rent for them. We don't like to chase rent checks. So Section 8 tenants are a great fit for us. Not only does the government pay you the rent every month on the same day, but that money never touches the tenant's hands. That's called minimizing your risk big time. That being said, there's a lot of great non-Section 8 hardworking tenants looking for the best houses in the best neighborhoods with great income as well. And we place them in our houses as well, but generally we're using Section 8 tenants. Another reason that we love Detroit is because there's an abundance of Section 8 tenants there. This may be a surprising stat, but Section 8 housing has not always been the best option. Today we're dealing with a completely different type of Section 8 tenant. In fact, in today's economy, I personally know people that had 700 plus FICO scores and great income that got affected pretty bad with the recession. They didn't own rental properties or have any passive income coming in, of course, so they're in a pretty bad position. But there are a lot of Section 8 families in the Detroit area that lost their job and homes with the collapse of the auto industry. And from my experience, they take great care of the home and usually stay there for a while. In fact, I've acquired properties that have had Section 8 tenants living in them since 1999. Talk about a great long-term tenant, right? Now, some of the reasons that I've been very pleased with the Section 8 program is because if the tenant screws up once, they lose their voucher for life. So the tenants generally seem to take care of the property better because they don't want to risk losing their voucher and having their rent being paid for. That's a huge benefit to them. The rents are also still very high, some of them up to the $900 a month range, where in a lot of cases Section 8 covers 100% of the tenant's voucher, meaning the tenant's not responsible for any rent payment whatsoever. 100% of the rent in a lot of cases comes directly from the government to your bank account. There's also over 9,000 families that are on a waiting list right now for Section 8 housing in Detroit. So your tenant base is huge. And the only way that one of those families can get a voucher is if someone screws up in the program, loses their voucher, and one becomes available. So again, most Section 8 tenants understand this and understand how valuable the voucher is, especially today. They don't want to lose it because, again, once they do, they lose it for life. Another reason I really like Section 8 is because I prefer to receive my rents from the government on the same day every month. So it never touches the tenant's hands. Less risk, the better when it comes to buy and hold investing, right? Plus, it doesn't suck when Uncle Sam pays you every month. One thing you can count on is that you're always going to have to pay him, right? Another reason we really love to invest in Detroit is because there's lots of government stimulus in the area. So, as you know, their economy has been hit pretty hard, and I think we can all agree on that. But with that being said, the government has allocated millions of dollars to stimulate the area of Detroit in many different ways. Here's just a few projects that are being funded to help stimulate the Detroit economy. The first one is building a light rail to link downtown. So it's a light rail system to link downtown to other areas. Demolition plan to restore neighborhoods that rid of the eyesores of the community and reduce overall supply. So getting, in those bad neighborhoods, they're starting to clean them up, and they're starting to knock down the homes and create nice lots, brand new lots to build on or to use for urban farming, etc., stuff like that. And then, of course, we can't forget to talk about how Michigan is becoming the new Hollywood. The government has some huge incentives for movie studios. In fact, anyone that opens a studio or films in the area receives a 42% tax break. The one kicker is that they have to hire Michigan employees to qualify for that. And this really kicked off when the movie Gran Torino opened everyone's eyes to, the stimulus. This was a movie that Clint Eastwood did, grossed $262 million. And because it was filmed in Michigan, they got a 42% tax break. That's a $110 million tax break on the gross income of that movie. I mean, that's huge. And it's no wonder why Motown Motion Pictures purchased the old GM plant in Pontiac, Michigan right now and is creating a huge studio that's going to bring thousands of jobs to the community. Which leads me to another reason why we love Detroit, because right now there are so many jobs being created. Like I said, Motown Motion Pictures, that's 3,600 jobs. Ford is hiring another 7,000 new employees, and Detroit is expected to get about 1,000 of those. Quicken Loans has moved to downtown Detroit and brings 3,700 employees to the city. Blue Cross and Blue Shield also moving to downtown, bringing 3,000 more employees into the city. Galaxy Solutions, another 500 jobs. GM starting the production of the 2013 Impala in the Detroit plant, bringing 2,500 jobs. Detroit Medical Center expansion, bringing another 500 jobs. These are just a few of the companies creating jobs in Detroit, but between them, that's 14,800 jobs being created. In fact, Detroit is ranked #1 right now as the fastest growing metro area for technology jobs. It's up 101% since 2010. So, again, if you're not educated on this market and in this area, how would you know these things? But these are the type of things you want to track, because these are big companies that see opportunity there. And you want to go where the big companies are going. In fact, Next year, Whole Foods is opening up their first chain in Michigan. It's in Detroit. It's actually the first major grocery store chain to actually go into Detroit. And, that's a big, big thing. Whole Foods sees opportunity there. They've already created relationships with farmers in the area. And as more and more of these bad neighborhoods continue to get demolition and more lots pop up, those are all turning into urban farms and urban farming, where Detroiters are going to have an opportunity to get contracts with Whole Foods as well. So there's a ton of opportunity going on in Detroit right now. And as Detroit turns and the market turns, it's going to happen quick. And you don't want to be one of those people that, kicks yourself on the butt and says, yeah, I had an opportunity. I could have done that. You want to be laughing when that happens and say, hey, you know what? I own 20 homes right now. Detroit is back. It's a seller's market. I'm going to sell these homes off one at a time and make huge profit doing it. Now, I realize that I'm not the only company in Detroit offering turnkey properties. In fact, there's a lot of other companies out there that you can do business with. Or you might decide that you want to quit your day job and set up your own real estate business in Detroit and do it yourself. Either way, I want to go over some do's and don'ts for you to be aware of when creating cash flow properties in Detroit. So again, if you decide to go out there and do this on your own, you won't make some of the same mistakes I did. First thing you want to remember if you're doing this on your own is you always want to purchase the neighborhood, like I said, not the house. Detroit is a block-to-block city, so make sure that the block and surrounding blocks are great and have a lot of pride of ownership in them. Never purchase a home on a block with several boarded up or burned down houses. Folks, I don't care what the price is, even if it's $1. Don't do it. Even if the block is great and that's the only thing wrong with it, unless you're going to be purchasing all of those homes and you know that you're going to be rehabbing them and getting them to turnkey status right away, don't do it. Because you never know when someone else is going to come in and rehab those properties and get those eyesores off your block. Always use a licensed contractor and pull permits when rehabbing. Most people in Detroit, they don't use licensed contractors or don't pull permits because it saves a lot of money. I'm a firm believer of following the rules, though, and doing things right the first time. Besides, it's going to end up costing you more money down the road to fix the work that wasn't done properly. And this usually happens when the tenant moves in. Things will start to fall apart. So make sure that you always use a licensed contractor and pull permits when rehabbing. Always get a pre-sale inspection done by the city and cross-reference that with the scope of work that the contractor gives you. Pre-sale inspection is when the city comes to inspect the house and creates a punch list of everything that needs to be done to the house to pass code, including what permits need to be pulled, etc. So make sure the contractor bid includes everything that the city says needs to be done and includes the cost of pulling permits if the pre-sale inspection says that there needs to be permits pulled. Always get C of O on your homes and register them with the city, certificate of occupancy. Follow the rules, let the city know what you're doing. Don't try and fly under the radar. Register your houses. And like I said, get a certificate of occupancy so your houses are legal and people can live in them. Another thing you want to do when rehabbing, if you're doing this on your own, is you always want to use glass block windows, as you can see here in the right-hand corner, in the basement. And you always want to use security doors on all entry doors of the house. This is just providing extra security for your tenants. They're going to feel safer, and it's just a must when tenanting your property. Those are two specific things, no matter what the neighborhood is, that tenants are looking for. So you definitely want to have those two things on all of your properties. Now, if you're purchasing a performing property, a turnkey property that's already rehabbed and already tenanted, always have a home inspection done prior to closing, because this is going to allow you to have a professional set of eyes go through the home and give you a real good idea of the functionality of the guts in the house, all the mechanicals and stuff like that. So you really want to know what's going on. That way, if anything needs to be repaired or fixed prior to the close of escrow, You can request that from the seller so that as you close, you know you have a perfect home that's in perfect functionality. Also, when purchasing a performing property, always review the lease that's in place prior to closing and make sure that the rent and the terms are exactly what the seller told you they were. I can't tell you how many times I've met investors that purchased properties that were tenanted and they find out the rents weren't what they expected, the lease was month to month, the term was up, etc. So always review the lease prior to closing if you're purchasing a property that already has a tenant in it. Always use a title company when purchasing property in Detroit. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, but I can't tell you how many people I've met that didn't use a title company and ended up getting screwed in the transaction, okay? So you always want to use a title company. Reason being is because you always want to get a warranty deed when purchasing property, right? And you always want to have title insurance to assure that it's a clean title. They're going to warranty it so that if anything ever pops up in the future, you're covered. You're not going to have to pay for it. The title company is going to cover it for you. So those are just some do's and don'ts if you actually want to get out there and do this yourself. Like I said, if you do, you better quit your day job because this is a full-time job, but it's definitely possible. You can get out there and you can do this yourself. These are some things that you definitely want to follow, though. Now, I hope I was able to provide a little bit of value for you. And if you're like most people by now, you can see the amazing opportunity for investors that presents itself in Detroit. It's like Warren Buffett says, when America's fearful, be greedy. And when America's greedy, be fearful, right? Well, right now, America's fearful. It's time to be greedy. The educated are being greedy and snatching up the best inventory and the best cash flow. It's time to take action, build your debt-free portfolio, and start cash flowing tremendously, then sell high as our market turns into a seller's market. And I promise you it will. As for now, we're in a buyer's market, so this is the time to buy. For me personally, I'll have no regrets as this market turns into a seller's market. And in the early 2000s I did, because I didn't purchase enough. And as it turned into a seller's market, I didn't have enough inventory. I wish that I bought more when it was a buyer's market. But I make sure to buy everything that I can at this point that fits my criteria to increase my cash flow and increase my net worth. And then, like I said, when the time's right, I'll sell at the highest possible price and move on to my next ventures. It's really that simple. Buy low, sell high. And there's no better time in our country than now to buy low, right? So that being said, let's dive into some great cash flowing deals that you can purchase right away. And as you know, all of our properties are rehabbed with tenants and leases and property management in place. So literally all you have to do is pick the property that's right for you, start collecting the cash flow the day you close. I have, I have blood, sweat, tears, and thousands of dollars in mistakes over the years to be able to bring these turnkey properties to you and this system to you. The best part is you don't have to go through or experience the mistakes that I did to get into the best properties in the best areas with the lowest taxes and the best tenants, because I've perfected the system and I have that all for you. So let's look at some of our properties that are available right now. This is a property, Garfield. It's a 3-bedroom in the suburb of Redford. This property is currently rented out at $750 per month, Section 8. Purchase price on this is $34,000. So great price point, great rents. Here's another one of our properties that's available. This is Coyle. This is a great property in an unbelievable neighborhood in Detroit. In fact, this specific Section 8 tenant has been in this property since 2000. So they've been in this property for 11 years. This is an unbelievably long-term, phenomenal Section 8 tenant. And you can see here, the return is huge. It's over 23% net return at $38,000 purchase price. Here's a property in the suburb of Inkster, which is borders Detroit, also borders a suburb of Wayne, which and Westland, which has some of the best school systems around. And a couple years ago, they opened their school systems to Inkster, and it made Inkster a lot more popular of a suburb because people want to move there. They can't necessarily maybe afford to live in Wayne or Westland, but they can afford to live in Inkster and their kids still have an opportunity to go to those schools and participate in the school system. So it's a great opportunity for them. This is an all brick ranch home, currently rented Section 8, $750 a month, $36,000 purchase price. Here's another property on Algonac Street in Detroit. Just a beautiful 3-bedroom, 1-bath, great property, 2-car garage. Again, $750 a month, tenanted, Section 8. Section 8 actually pays 100% of this voucher. Purchase price, $36,000. Montana, here's another 2-story colonial in a great neighborhood as well. $850 a month, Section 8 tenant, currently occupying, $36,000 a month purchase price. We also have a fast action bonus for you as well. And basically how that's going to work is anyone that gets involved this evening or within the next 48 hours of this call and purchases one of our properties, they're going to receive a $1,000 discount towards any of these properties. So the properties that I just showed you that are available, if this is something that you can make happen within the next 48 hours, you're going to get a $1,000 discount off the pricing that you just saw. Okay? Now, for those of you that maybe do want to quit your day job and maybe want to start your own business in Detroit and are looking to create a system, you'll probably be interested in our franchise model that we've created for you. Okay? And basically what we do is we issue a license that would allow you to leverage my whole team and pick up properties at my exact cost. So we issue a license to our system. It's our franchise model. And you'd be instantly in business with all of my REO brokers, my bird dogs, so you'd have people hand delivering you the best deals in the best neighborhoods at the best prices, contractors, all my title companies, all my property managers, and much, much more. So again, if you're looking to create your own virtual business in Detroit and you're looking to kind of get started overnight and instantly be in action with the system in place, then this might work for you. And what you're going to want to do is send me an email at ryan@inthenowinvestments.com, and in the title put franchise model. If you're interested in any properties that you just saw as well, go ahead and shoot me an email at the same spot. And if the property is still available, we'll go ahead and get it tied up for you. Our properties do sell very quick, so if this is something that works for you, I do recommend taking advantage of the fast action bonus and receiving that $1,000 discount. Folks, as far as the franchise model, it's sad but true, but 50% of businesses fail within their first 5 years, and 90% of franchises succeed within the first 5 years. Reason for this is because the franchise model is systems dependent versus being people dependent. With our franchise model, we're going to open up our whole blueprint to success to you when it comes to Detroit investing. So again, if that's something that works for you, shoot me an email at ryan@inthenowinvestments.com, and in the title put franchise model, and I'll go ahead and get back to you as soon as I can and give you more information on that. Folks, that's all I have for you this evening. And I would just like to leave you with one last thought. I'm sure a lot of us played Monopoly when we were younger. And, even though we didn't realize it, this was a great financial education for us as kids. I mean, think about it for a second. What are the 2 best properties on the board? Boardwalk and Park Place, right? And when you land on either of those properties, what's the bank going to ask you if you want to do? They're going to ask you if you want to buy it, right? Now, if you were smart enough, you would have. And as the game goes on and other people land on your properties, you're going to ask them to pay you rent, right? Now, here's the $1 million question I have for you. Do you know anyone that's ever won the game of Monopoly that didn't buy a lot of real estate? The answer is probably no, and you never will, because in order to win the game of Monopoly, you have to own the most real estate on the board. So You have two choices this evening, the way I see it. You could build your debt-free portfolio in Detroit, start collecting rents right away, cash flow, build your net worth, and win the game, or you can keep doing what you're doing and continue to roll the dice and hope that something different happens. It may, but I'm a firm believer that if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's your life, it's your retirement. We're just here to assist you if you allow us to. We'd love the opportunity to develop some business with you. But if not, that's okay too. We understand that our system and our opportunity doesn't work for everyone. But I would like to thank you for being here this evening, spending some time. I look forward to hearing from you soon and developing some business together. Create an amazing rest of your night, and we'll speak with you soon.